let my heart go.
All right, so third dot point that we had to cover in this summary video is principles of training, all right? Principles of training, sport VW, don't forget it, okay? You must be able to acknowledge all the principles of training if you get a question on principles of training in your tests. So training programs that follow the principles of training are successful in making performance gains, all right? As opposed to training programs that don't follow the principles of training, all right? Athletes may not be getting the most out of their training, or they just may not be making gains at all and wonder why. Well, probably because they're not following the principles. So your principles are, specificity is our first one. Gains are made specifically in the systems trained. For example, a runner does continuous aerobic training most of the time rather than weight training, right? If a runner wants to improve their cardiorespiratory endurance, then they should be doing aerobic training, specificity, all right? And then even more specifically, a runner who runs long distances should be doing long distance running, okay? If, like, you don't see marathon runners who just predominantly do interval training. That doesn't make sense, all right? So while aerobic intervals is very good at developing your aerobic capacity, it could be more specific to that athlete by making them do continuous training instead. Progressive overload. Progressive overload means that training volume and intensity must be continually increased to continue making gains in fitness, all right? So for example, adding an extra rep per set per week, all right? For a weightlifter or a bodybuilder, or a runner adding 10 seconds daily onto their training. So if a runner on Monday said they're going to run for 20 minutes, on Tuesday they're going to run for 20 minutes and 10 seconds, on Wednesday you're going to run for 20 minutes and 20 seconds, on Thursday you're going to run for 20 minutes and 30 seconds, 40 seconds, what I'm up to. You get the point, all right? It's got to be continually loading. If they then drop back to what they were originally doing, or if the weightlifter, for example here, stops adding things and just keeps it like stagnant, then not only will they not make any gains, but they could be at likelihood chance of having reversibility occur. Because you're not going up, then it's hard. You may just be maintaining, but sometimes your maintenance isn't good enough. So reversibility is our next one. Fitness gains will be lost if training stops or if training is reduced, all right? This must be prevented, all right? So reversibility you don't want. You want all these things, you don't want this thing. For example, a runner's VO2 max, and remember VO2 max is the amount of oxygen the body can deliver to skeletal muscle. So you want a good VO2 max if you're an endurance athlete. So a runner's VO2 max decreases after they have stopped training for 2 weeks due to injury. All right, so even just a quick 2 weeks on the sideline from a rolled ankle or whatever it is, and then they're back training 2 weeks later, their running performance will be drastically reduced. They can get the gains in fitness back, and the gains in fitness will actually come back quite quickly, but reversibility has occurred. Training thresholds. Aerobic gains only occur above the aerobic threshold and below the anaerobic threshold. And it's the same for the anaerobic system. So anaerobic gains will only occur above the anaerobic threshold, right? Gains are greater the higher in the zone athletes go, right? So remember our aerobic threshold is like between like 65 and 85% maximum heart rate. So anything above 65%, you're going to be making gains in aerobic fitness. So cardiorespiratory endurance, all that kind of stuff. The closer you go to 85, the quicker the gains will come, all right? But it's obviously harder. You can't keep it up for as long, so you can't do as much of it. So there's a trade-off there. Variety. Athletes can train in different ways, still achieve gains, and mix it up every now and then to prevent staleness in their training, right? So you've got to remember, if people are training for the Olympics, and it's a 4-year cycle, they're basically going to be training 4 years straight, like day in, day out, they're living and breathing the Olympics and their training. You do not want that person getting to like year 3 and becoming stale because they've just sort of, you know, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And they stop training and then they lose the plot and a whole bunch of things, right? So you want to put some variety in there, but still keep it specific to their training goals. For example, a runner does some swim training, so they're still working aerobically, or some circuit training, which is an aerobic method as well, but it's just not running, every now and then. So not doing it all the time, maybe like once or twice a week, or maybe just having a week off their normal training and doing these different activities. So then when they get back to running, they don't feel, well, they feel fresh, I should say, as opposed to not feeling stale. The only one I haven't done is warm up and cool down, which I will do now. Warm up and cool down is our last principle of training. Why is it important? It is important as to it prepares the athlete for training. Now when I say prepare the athlete for training, that's a mental thing, okay? So mentally they get their head in the game, they're like, right, I'm about to do something hard. My warm-up is like my mental preparation, okay, I'm ready to go. Physically, it reduces injury, right? And this is from like enhanced blood flow and increasing blood. Oh dear. You can tell it's Friday afternoon. Enhanced blood flow, increasing, the suppleness, the pliability of their connective tissues, etc., so they're less likely to tear. And because of the enhanced blood flow, and because they're mentally prepared, they actually get enhanced gains from the training session. So if you're an elite athlete and you're going to train for an hour, you want to make gains, as much gains as possible in that hour, okay? But if you're just running around for the purpose of running around, you're just burning energy and you're not making any fitness gains, then why did you train? That's a waste of time. That's what we don't want. So they're the good things about a warm-up. The cool down, this one, improves recovery, therefore enabling more training. So good cool downs make this come about further, and the more training that we do, the more gains we make. Then we recover, and then we make training again, then we recover and we train again, and then we end up being the best. Got to catch them all. So that was the principles of training. All right, your last one that we covered in critical question 1, physiological adaptations in response to training. So when you train and you follow the principles of training, these are the things that will change in your body, or some of the things that will change in your body. All right, so I've broken it up into aerobic and strength, okay? Let's go through them. Resting heart rate, aerobic training decreases, all right? Because you have a stronger cardiac muscle. You're directly working the heart muscle, so therefore it is stronger. It's able to pump more blood per beat, so therefore it doesn't need to beat as much when you're not doing much. It also doesn't need to beat as much when you are doing stuff. Strength training, it's a slight decrease, but it's not significant, okay? Cardiac output, stroke volume, they go together. Blood per minute, blood per beat. Both of them will increase due to the strong cardiac muscle. Strength training, slight increase, but once again, not significant, okay? Oxygen uptake will increase due to the creation of more capillaries and due to the creation of more alveoli in the lungs. So you're able to absorb more oxygen from the lungs, and then you're able to absorb more oxygen at the muscle itself due to more capillaries, all right? Strength training will have a slight increase in that as well, not necessarily in the lungs, but in the capillaries it will happen because muscles still need oxygen. Lung capacity, slight increase, not significant though, to no change, all right? Hemoglobin levels, so the amount of red blood cells transporting oxygen around the body, obviously strong link to aerobics, so it's going to have a drastic increase. Strength training will have a slight increase, and this time it is, well, it's not significant, but as in it's detectable, okay? Muscular hypertrophy, aerobic training, you will have a slight increase at the start of a program, and then it will stop. So you'll grow a little bit of muscle, enough to do whatever activity you want to do, like running or cycling or whatever, and then you'll stop. Strength training, obviously, increase, okay? Big increase there with strength training as over aerobic training. And then finally, we've got our fast and slow twitch fibers, okay? And their effects on performance. So remember, slow twitch fibers use more oxygen, okay? And therefore, fast twitch fibers pretty much don't use oxygen. So one or the other. Aerobic, enhanced slow twitch fiber composition and function. So the muscles themselves will actually develop more slow twitch fibers than fast twitch fibers when you're aerobically training. And those slow twitch fibers will get better at uptaking oxygen and delivering it to the muscle. Strength training, the opposite occurs. Enhanced fast twitch fiber composition and function. So the muscles will develop more fast twitch fibers as opposed to slow twitch fibers, and those fast twitch fibers will get better at storing ATP and being able to use the lactic acid system and glycogen for instant energy in the absence of oxygen. So that's the physiological adaptations in response to training, and that's the end of your 4.1 summary videos. Thanks, bye.